Want to know how to make service-oriented architecture, or SOA, work within your enterprise? Want to run a successful service-oriented architecture project? Want to gain the benefits and the value of service-oriented architecture? In this presentation, we're going to tell you the secrets and how to make your service-oriented architecture more effective and how to make service-oriented architecture work for your enterprise. The agenda consists of what's going on in the current trends in the world of service-oriented architecture, how do you win the first time with service-oriented architecture, cloud computing, how to make service-oriented architecture better, service-oriented architecture challenges, delivering successful service-oriented architecture projects, 5 things to avoid, and then I'll provide concluding thoughts and advice. By watching this program, you will learn about how to be better prepared in approaching service-oriented architecture, including how you run a project, the process and the steps in moving from the beginning of the project to the end state, how to understand the return on objective, or ROI, and how to deliver the value that service-oriented architecture can bring to your enterprise. First, let's consider what's going on in current trends. Well, Gartner says the number of organizations planning to adopt service-oriented architecture for the first time is falling dramatically. However, recently, service-oriented architecture has made a dramatic comeback. Evans data says 52% have had service-oriented architecture-based projects underway, and another 31% were planning to start SOA projects over the next 12 months. TechTarget says that in their survey, they found that in 2008, the number of organizations planning to adopt service-oriented architecture in the next 12 months fell to 25% from 53% in 2007, but also found that 53% already have service-oriented architecture up and running. So what does this mean? This means that service-oriented architecture as a complex architecture has actually gone through a resurgence. People finally understand the value of service-oriented architecture, figure out how to put it in context of their enterprise architecture and their enterprise problem domain, including enterprise IT, and are starting to move forward with their projects. Current trends include moving from a micro to macro domains with a focus on scaling, a focus on security, a focus on sharing, movement to cloud computing, and then ultimately the ability to do smaller scale service-oriented architecture projects or tactical wins that provide more strategic value going forward. So the first trend, as we discussed, is moving from a micro domain to a macro domain. So service-oriented architecture is basically lots of little fiefdoms and lots of little problem domains that we're building within the enterprise. We're doing this by solving lots of smaller problems to provide larger strategic value. So service-oriented architecture has moved from the department level up into the enterprise level. So more enterprises are considering service-oriented architecture strategic to their direction and ultimately are doing this in a centralized IT fashion driven by the C-level folks and the enterprise architectures in their domain. Now, let me tell you how to win the first time with service-oriented architecture. Ultimately, you need to, number one, make sure there are advocates and budgets within the enterprise to basically provide support for the service-oriented architecture. SOA is expensive. It takes a lot of time and money, and it takes some risk. You have to have advocates within the enterprise executive team that understand the value of this technology and are willing to underwrite it and bring it to a successful conclusion. Number two, begin with the architecture, not with the technology. This is not about throwing an ESB or middleware technology or application development technology at some problem. This is about understanding and planning what this technology can do for you and making sure the technology aligns with the problem domain you're looking to drive it into. Number three, get the talent and knowledge you need. Hire consultants, hire mentors, get the training you need, read the books you need. Every bit of information you can understand and know about service-oriented architecture will reduce the risk of you failing within your first service-oriented architecture effort.